Greetings again. Tonight, the movie of the day, Wrong Turn, the original, 2003. In my mind, classic. I genuinely like this movie. I liked it when I first saw it, and I still like it now. I wasn't sure if it would hold up or not, but I enjoyed it. But yeah, let's just get into it. So obviously, no, don't watch this, spoilers, blah blah blah, whatever. If you've seen it, then watch it. If you haven't, then don't, etc. Done. Okay, spoiler alert has been issued. So the movie starts off with a scene of a couple rock climbing, which they're in West Virginia, and they die. Let's just cut to it. They die. Hillbillies get them. And then it cuts to clips of like articles of inbreeding mutations and missing people and cutting back to forth, that kind of stuff. And then we get to our first of the main characters, Chris, driving. He's going to a meeting or something, I think. And there's a big holdup in traffic. Apparently there's a chemical spill or something, and gets out of his car to go see what's going on. He knocks on one of the trucker's window, and the trucker answers, and he's like, "Do you know what's going on?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a big spill up there." And he's like, "Oh shit, how long is it going to take?" "Probably a couple hours." He's like, "Oh." So, and then he asks like, "What should we do?" or something, or like, "How long is it going to..." I don't know, I can't remember what it is, but anyway, the trucker ends up saying something along the lines of, or he's like, "Yeah, so what do we do now?" And the trucker's like, "Well, you can go back into your car, you can fix your hair a couple hundred more times." And he's just like, "Fuck, okay, whatever." Goes back to his car. I thought that was pretty good. Anyway, he gets fed up and he turns around and drives back the way he came, looking for like a side route. He comes to this gas station where there's an old man working there, and payphone doesn't work. He's trying to contact his people because the cell service isn't working. He sees the map and he sees a little side road that goes around like a hilly, mountainous area or whatnot. And he asks the guy there, you know, "Is this... it looks like this works. Is this gonna do it?" And the guy's just looking at him like, "No fucking clue. If you say so, sure, go for it." Little does he know, it's alluded to later on, that this guy at the gas station is fully aware of the things that live in that area, so he's not wanting to get involved one way or another. Anyway, so he drives down this other little side road, and it's supposed to meet up back with the highway about 20 miles down or whatever, so hopefully passing the chemical spill so we can get back onto the main road and head off. But as he's like, his CD skips or something, and he tries to get it off the ground, and he's distracted, and he ends up crashing into this other car that's parked on the side of the road. And right away, these three young, I don't know if they're teens or if they're in their 20s or what. I don't know. I'm assuming they're in their 20s, whatever. They jump out and they're like, "Oh my god, are you okay? Fuck, my car!" And all that shenanigans, you know, that would happen from a car accident. Anyway, it turns out that these people were going on sort of like a trip to cheer up their friend who just got dumped. And there's characters are, so we got Jessie, who's our lead actress, I guess, to Chris or whatever, and then we have Francine and Evan, who are dating, and then there is Carly and Scott, who are just recently engaged. And they're basically on this trip to make Jessie feel better because she loves the outdoors or something, so they're doing that. But anyway, it turns out that they ended up hitting barbed wire on the road, and that's why their car was parked in the middle of the road. Because Chris is like, "Well, what the fuck, why are you parked in the middle of the road?" Anyway, that's why. And then that's when Jessie walks up and she's like, "Yeah, so this was clearly tied to a tree. This is some shenanigans here." So they suggest, "Okay, we should go. We saw a gas station back there." And Chris is like, "Yeah, I was there." The guy was like, "Absolutely no help. They don't have a phone. It's pointless." So they decide to go and get some help. So Evan and Francine stay with the vehicles and watch them, I guess, and whatnot. And it's alluded to sexual things because you got to do that in these kind of movies, right? Doesn't show it though, so props to them. And then, yeah, so Scott, Carly, Chris, and Jessie go to try to find some form of help of some kind. They end up stumbling upon this old property that is pretty dilapidated, and there are like a bunch of old cars from different eras. Like you have mobster looking cars from like the 1930s, like those Model A, is that what it is? I can't remember, but yeah, they're all kinds of cars, but they're pretty dated looking, so you know, it's probably just like you drive by the farm and stuff, and a bunch of farms have a bunch of old cars on them everywhere, so it's not a huge deal. They think nothing of it, and they enter the house. Meanwhile, back at their cars, Evan and Francine are talking or something. She's sorting through all Chris's stuff in his car, complete disregard for respect of his property, throwing CDs in the back seat, all that jazz. And Evan is gone. And she's like, Evan, where the hell are you, dude? So she goes into the forest, and it looks like there's a trail or something that he might have went down, I guess. So she goes there, and then she finds his shoe. And then she goes further and finds like his ear. And it has like his piercings that he had, so I guess she recognizes his, and she's like obviously freaked out, like what the fuck. And that's when one of these hillbillies goes behind her with barbed wire right in her mouth, and anyway, she dies, and that's that. So cuts back to the place where the other four are at this house, and they knock and no one answers, and Chris opens the door, and Jesse, being somewhat of a realistic character, is like, you can't just like go into someone's house, like, and he's like, okay, we need a phone, you know, we had an accident, we really need to sort this out. And then Carly's all gung-ho, and Scott's kind of hesitant too, so Scott and Jesse, the voices of reason, but they go in anyway, so they all join in. No one's home. There's a bunch of old rotten food on the table and shit like that, and strewn about there are some strange sights. Like there's a pile of like 30 or 40 different sunglasses. There are like piles of little kids' toys, batteries, all kinds of stuff that it's a little bit suspicious. So clearly like Jesse's kind of catching on to it, and then she stumbles across a bowl full of like car keys rings. So that's kind of strange too. Chris finds like an old fridge or something, and he opens it, and there are jars of like some weird meat in it. And Carly goes to find a bathroom, and she sees in the bathtub there's like a human hand floating in it. She's like, okay, we need to get the fuck out of here now. And everyone's like, what's up? And she's like, yeah, this. And just as she's about to like, they're about to go, a tow truck comes pulling both Chris's car and their car that had like, you know. Anyway, they're dragging both those cars, and three deformed looking mutant hillbilly inbred people get out of the vehicle, and they start taking, you know, getting ready and pulling their stuff in and whatever. So obviously the four of them find hiding spots. So Jesse and Chris hide under one of the beds, and Scott and Carly hide in like a closet or something. I mean, I guess they're limited for spots to hide, but luckily they don't find them. And they end up dragging Francine's body in and dropping her right by the bed. So her dead face with barbed wire and blood and everything lands like right beside like Jesse's face. So she's like freaking out, but trying to stay quiet still. And Chris is like, oh, for fuck's sake, this ain't good. Then they pull her up, and they like start cutting her up and like dismembering her and stuff. And cuts to later where all the three hillbilly mutant inbreds pass out, and they're sleeping essentially. So that's their time to get the hell out of here. So Chris and Jesse slowly climb out from under the bed. One of their hands is hanging right over, so they got like this really tight space they got to go through to get out without touching them, but they manage whatever. They get up, and yeah, Scott and Carly sneak out as well. Of course, Carly kicks like a pot on the ground, which makes it clang. They don't wake up, so that's great. And they slowly make their way out, and the spring makes a weird noise, so Chris grabs it quickly to like stop it, but as they open the door, obviously it's like compressing and expanding and cutting his hand up a little bit, so he's like, just fucking go. And they do, and just as he's closing the door and releasing the spring to free his hand, his skin all caught in there, and ugh, that would hurt like a bastard. He turns to look back just to make sure everything's good, and one of them's eyes is like wide open staring at him. So they bolt. They run into the woods. They scramble up like a hill in the trees. They look down and they see the three brothers. I'm just going to refer to them as the brothers instead of like the mutant, hillbilly, whatever, because less syllables, easy to say. The three brothers get into their truck and they drive off down the road. And they're like, where the fuck are they going? It's whatever. Let's just get the hell out of here. So they do. They come to a clearing with a ton more cars, and now it's very apparent that the cars they saw in the front yard of this place and the cars in this big ass clearing are all cars of victims that the three brothers here have taken out. There's like, again, different eras of vehicles from like, I guess it's been running in their family and they've just been grabbing everyone that goes down this road or whatever. Yeah, so that's fun. You see, again, like more remnants of like people's stuff in the cars, I guess, that they haven't cleared out yet or whatnot. There's like little dolls implying, oh yeah, they kill kids, women, man, they don't give a shit. Hopefully not dogs and cats though, because no one wants to see a dog or a cat get killed. Anyway, so that's all fun and games. Then they hear the truck coming and they're like, oh shit. So they're hiding and the truck comes and they get out and they're walking around looking and everything, and they're like, okay, they left the keys in the car. So Chris is like, I'm gonna distract him, you guys get the car, I'll meet you down on the road or something or whatever it is, and we'll figure it out. And they're like, no, Chris, you can't do that. But he just takes off. He's like, hey, you fuckers, or whatever. Obviously drawing their attention. Just as he's about to make through the clearing to the edge of the woods, they do end up shooting him in the leg, and he falls down. And they start walking towards him, and Scott's like, fuck, this ain't good. They're gonna kill him if I gotta do something too. So he makes a distraction and runs into the woods, drawing their attention. And they fire at him, but they miss, thankfully, so they figure, okay, well, Chris is like down. He's gonna still be there when we get back. He'll either bleed out or he won't be able to walk or something. So they take off after Scott. The fresh target, right? The thrill of the hunt. Maybe they're secretly, they're like predators in that sense. Maybe they enjoy the hunt. I don't know. But anyway, they chase Scott and whatnot, and Jesse and Chris and Carly run into the car, and they're driving off the road, and they see Scott running through the forest, and they pull aside, and they're like, come, quick. And he sees them, and he heads toward them, and he stops like this, and they're like, Scott, what are you doing? Let's go. And then you see blood coming out of his chest, and then an arrow comes through. So he got 3 arrows to the back. He's dead. Carly is clearly not thrilled about this. That's her fiance, whatever. They take off. Nothing they can do. And there's a nice scene actually where Jesse is like somewhat consoling Carly, and it's actually kind of realistic. Like, you don't see these kind of movies take like a couple of minutes to showcase like the actual trauma of seeing your partner. It's either they're killed right away or they run away, and it's just like adrenaline kicks in and they're not even worrying about their partner anymore. But she actually has like a little breakdown almost, and Jesse's like trying to console her and stuff, and Chris is like puts her hand on her shoulder and it's like, we have to move. Like, it sucks. She's like, I just want him back, and it's actually kind of sad. So they did very good job to the directors for putting in a little scene like that. I know it's insignificant compared to like the grand scheme of the movie, but I really think it adds to the realism. It's showing that these characters are not just disposable. They literally are all friends and care about it. Anyway, whatever. I'm going on too long about that. So they keep going, then they come to a dead end where there's a tree across the little dirt road that they're going. And so Jesse tries to reverse, but the truck gets stuck in the mud. So that's fantastic, right? Anyway, so they go into the woods and they're like, well, we got to go somewhere. Okay, I just praised them for realism, but now I'm thinking about it. Why wouldn't they just climb over the log and go? No, it was a dead end. It was an actual literal dead end. That's why. Okay. So they go into the woods to go somewhere, I guess. I don't know. Traveling for a while, they come across like an old watchtower, like a forest ranger tower. So that's fantastic. They climb up it, and they actually end up finding like a radio and like a medical kit. So they patch up Chris, and Carly attempts to contact someone on the radio, but there's no response right away. They crack some glow sticks they can see and whatnot. And then I think it's Carly who sees out the window that there's like 3 torches coming. It's like, fuck, the brothers are on their way. So they quickly cover up the glow sticks, and they're all like trying to be real quiet and keep everything dark. And then naturally that's when the radio responds, hello, blah blah blah, or what's your position and shit. And of course that draws the attention of the brothers, who now start heading towards the watchtower. They originally, it looked like they were just going to pass by, but they end up climbing up the ladder. So there's like a cooler or an old freezer or something, I'm not sure what it is. It's a big blocky heavy thing, and they put it over the door, the hatch that leads into the entrance, so it blocks them off. One of the brothers like pushes it open and tries to put his hand through, but they slam it down and they hit his fingers, and you hear him screaming, and clearly they are like, okay, well, we can't get in, so they go down the ladder, and they're like, what's going on? Well, they're leaving. Great, good. And that's when they notice the smoke. They've set the watchtower on fire. They're like, if we can't get them this way, we're just gonna burn them. So they make the executive decision to jump out the window onto a nearby, like it's surrounded by trees, like completely almost. Oh yeah, when they first got there, they looked out and it's like beautiful view, sunset, like West Virginia scenery, which is gorgeous, by the way. I had the opportunity of driving through West Virginia this year, and it was absolutely beautiful. Anyway, so the scenery is great, but there's no road. They don't see any roads, so there's like... But anyway, fast forward back to where we are. Smoke. They're going to jump onto one of the nearest trees. Because, yeah, again, they're in the middle of the woods. Trees are, like, pretty damn close. They're huge. Their branches are relatively strong looking, so Chris jumps for it. He falls through a couple of branches, but ends up landing on a sturdy one. Carly jumps out next. She almost falls to the ground, but catches onto one. Chris helps her up. Jessie jumps as well, and she hits one, and it looked like, holy fuck, that would hurt. She like bounces off it, but then grabs it from underneath. It's like, oh my god. Oh, probably winded her. But anyway, so they're good. So then arrows start going at the trees, so clearly they know they're in the trees. Not hitting anyone. There's so many branches that they're hitting, like the branches at their feet or like beside them and stuff. But they're like, hey, we got to go to like follow the branches that are close enough to connect and move through the trees that way to get away from these idiots. Little known to them, one of them is, I guess, good at climbing trees, and he's climbing up the tree, and he's, you know, coming towards them, and I don't think they're fully aware of that at this point. But so Chris and Jessie had landed on one tree, and Carly had landed on another tree. So Carly is attempting to cross this bough to get to them, and she stops at another tree, I guess, to catch her breath. And that's when, I guess, the one that's climbing finds her and gets to her stop. And Jessie's about to scream out, but it's too late. So it takes like a little axe, and you see her body from her lower jaw downfall. So she's been beheaded in between her jaw. That was a pretty good scene. That was a good death. I was amused by that. Well, it makes me sound morbid as shit. But I mean, if you're watching a horror movie, you want to see the interesting deaths, right? So that was fun. So Carly's out. I mean, I guess, whatever, good. She can be with her fiance again, right? Anyway, so Chris and Jessie are like, for fuck's sakes, okay, well, that's the end of that. Jessie's torn. Like, all of her friends that, like, went on this trip to cheer her up from her boyfriend dumping her, which is the little backstory. They, like, all dropped work and immediately, because Jessie's, like, an outdoors girl. She loves nature, and it just clears her mind. So they all take her out to West Virginia, which, realistically, would be a good, you know, bit of soothingness there for someone who likes the outdoors. Anyway, whatever. So that happens. I can't remember exactly how, but they come to like another like dead end cliff side thing where one of them catches up and knocks Chris like down the side of the slope. It's not like a drop, it's like a slope. So he falls and he can't like stabilize himself enough in time to save Jessie from being captured. So they grab her, they take off back to the truck. I guess before they drive off, he gets back up the hill and he goes under the truck and he like lifts himself up onto the undercarriage of the vehicle, I guess, to go back and save her or whatever. So he does that. And they have her in the... No, what happens? Ugh. They get split up somehow, and I guess one of them takes her back and the other drives off in the truck, and then he finds the truck and does that. Anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. He gets to back to the house, and he hears her screaming inside, and she's bound and gagged and tied to like a bed or something, or a table, or I don't know what it is. And there's one hovering over her with a knife, and he's, I guess, about to take her down, and all of a sudden, Molotov right at the window, fire, catches his attention. What the hell? One of the guys goes up, and the truck from, that's what it was, okay. So there was a police officer, the one that was talking to them on the radio, ends up coming down the road and finding Chris, and Chris is like, dude, like, shut up, you gotta help us, and whatever. And he's like, okay, what's going on? And then, of course, he gets an arrow in the eye, so the cop's dead. And that's how it works. So he goes under the cop car, and the one that killed the cop throws the cop in the back, takes the cop car. Okay, so that's how we got to the place. Beautiful. My brain, you see? Gonna Tarantino it and not tell the story completely in order. Anyway, so yeah, back to all that. She's bound, tied up. He dismounts. They drag the cop in. They're like, I think they cut his head off or something. And then, yeah, window, boom, smash. Car comes through, hits one of the hillbillies. It's assumed that he's dead. Oh, one of them was taken out actually in the trees. I forgot to mention. The one that climbed up, I think. Was that the one? One of them dies. Anyway, so there's 2 hillbillies left at this point. But yeah, they do a thing where Jesse lures him and he pulls a branch back, and the hillbilly is chasing her, and whoosh, branch lets go, knocks him down onto the ground. I don't know if that's the guy that dies or if a guy dies from the truck, but one of them is dead. Anyway, so that's fun. God, I'm getting sidetracked again. This is really stupid. So, okay, so yeah, window smash, fire, car, guy gets hit. Right, and then the other one comes in, like the big one. I don't know what, I can't remember what his name is. If that, one of them is called Three Finger, and that's, I think, the one that goes on, like, to do the sequels, which I have not seen yet. One day I'll watch them. I don't know. It seems like a movie that didn't need sequels, so I'm kind of hesitant to watch them. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Big guy comes in, there's like a scuffle and whatnot, and he's got an axe, and he's like swinging at Chris, and Chris is, you know, he's still on an injured leg that got shot, so he's not super quick, but he's able to just move out of the way because an axe is kind of a big lumbering weapon. So he manages somewhat, but like eventually he's gonna hit him. So Jesse, who has one hand free that Chris had helped her get free, is like trying to get a bow and arrow that is nearby, but she's still tied up essentially. Anyway, ends up shooting him in the base of the neck, saving Chris essentially. Gets herself undone, and yeah, so this guy's like not dead, but he's down and like groaning and stuff with an arrow in the base of his neck. And that's when the other skinny hillbilly looking guy ends up taking a bat to Chris and actually hits him, and Jesse grabs a piece of burning wood and ends up hitting him in the head and all that, and I guess she knocks him out, or I don't know if it like killed him, concussed him, whatever. Anyway, the 2 remaining brothers are slowed down, and they, you know, Jesse kind of helps Chris hobble out of the place to like get the hell out of there. And they're still alive, and they're like getting up, and they're like, why won't you just die? And then they look in the cop car that they had taken, has jerry cans on the back, and the house is on fire. So it's like, all right, let's just end this shit. So shoots the jerry can, it like bursts, and then the gas, and boom, you know. So it's implied that the hillbillies are dead, and they drive off in one of the vehicles happily ever after. So the only 2 that survived out of the 6 are Chris and Jesse, and they make it. Then the credits start going a little bit, and then there's like a mid-credit scene or something, like relatively quickly, showing a search and rescue officer pulling up to the burnt down house, and he's like looking through the rubble, and he sees a body of, I guess the one that got the arrow is dead, or maybe the other one. I don't know. I don't know which is which, to be real. They all look different, but he was buried and stuff. So anyway, he starts sorting through, and he's like, oh my god, there's a person there. And The other one ends up coming up behind him with an axe and doing this stupid like grin and swings the axe. Then it cuts to the credits, and that's the end of the movie. So that was Wrong Turn. Upon this recent rewatch, as soon as they before the end credits thing, they kind of, when they took off down the road and that was kind of the end of it, I was like, oh, that's kind of like not a phenomenal ending. But then the little post-credit scene, jeez, I can't speak English apparently. Post-credit scene kind of like wrapped that up and made me think, okay, that was a good ending. So yeah, once again, all in all, I've always liked this movie. I think it's really fun. It was a lot better than I thought it would be rewatching it. Like, I hadn't watched it in maybe, I don't know, 6 years or something like that. So I was kind of skeptical. I was like, oh, I remember liking this movie a lot, but when I watch it, I'm probably gonna not be too pumped about it. But no, I was pleasantly surprised. It held up. I enjoyed it as much as I did back in the day. So there we go. What are we gonna rate this bad boy? So I recognize that it has flaws, but my genuine nostalgia and enjoyment for this film will put it up a little bit more. Plus, it has Eliza Dushku, so I mean, come on. What am I gonna give it? I'm gonna give it an 8. Honestly, that's probably a little high for most people, but I thoroughly, genuinely enjoy this film, and I'm giving it an 8, and I don't give a shit. Again, I haven't seen the sequels. Again, I'm a little hesitant to, but really like the first one, and yeah, that's where I'm going. 8. I don't know what it's streaming on. I just watched a DVD that I own, so I mean, it might be on Shudder or Prime or something like that, but unfortunately, I can't tell you off the top of my head where you can watch it. So get the DVD or Blu-ray now. I guess there's probably, maybe I should update it at this point, but anyway, that was Wrong Turn, and I liked it, and it was an 8, and you should watch it. Okay, bye.